The first thing Mark noticed wasn't the crystal chandelier or the skyline of Chicago glowing behind the glass walls, it was the way everyone seemed to be watching him. His collar felt too tight. His jacket, borrowed from his friend Nathan, didn't quite sit right on his shoulders. Across the white tablecloth sat Vanessa, breathtaking in a royal blue top and a rust-colored skirt, her posture straight, her eyes sharp with a kind of amusement that didn't feel kind at all. This was supposed to be a joke. A blind date arranged by her co-workers for entertainment. Mark had only agreed because he was tired of being the lonely guy everyone pitied. Have you ever walked into a room and realized you were the punchline? What would you do if you understood that the evening was designed to expose your insecurities? Vanessa leaned closer, studying him as if she were trying to solve a puzzle she already believed was beneath her. Mark had told her he worked in property management, which wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the full truth. He managed maintenance requests, late-night plumbing emergencies, and tenants who shouted at him for problems he couldn't afford to fix. He earned enough to survive in a small apartment outside the city. Meanwhile, she spoke casually about her marketing position in a downtown firm, her weekend trips to Miami, her expectations of ambition. Every word she used felt like a spotlight. Mark's life hadn't followed the script most people imagined. At 22, he had dropped out of college in Ohio to take care of his younger sister after their mother died from cancer. Medical bills swallowed everything. Scholarships disappeared. Dreams of architecture school faded quietly into survival mode. He didn't resent his sister, Hannah. She was the only reason he kept going. But the years had a way of settling into his bones. Vanessa tilted her head and asked about his future plans with a half-smile that suggested she already knew the answer would disappoint her. The wine in his glass remained untouched. He wasn't embarrassed about where he came from. He was embarrassed about how small it looked through her eyes. Around them, the restaurant shimmered with wealth-polished silverware, low jazz humming in the background, waiters gliding like shadows. Mark could almost hear the silent commentary, "What is he doing here?" He remembered the text from his coworker earlier that afternoon. "Dude, this girl's friends set this up as a prank. Don't take it seriously." He had laughed it off, convincing himself he didn't care. But sitting there, feeling dissected, he cared more than he wanted to admit. Vanessa's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it. A smirk flickered across her lips. Mark saw it. He understood. This wasn't about connection. It was about spectacle. If you were sitting in his place, would you stay to prove something? Or would you walk away and protect what little pride you had left? He straightened slightly, something shifting inside him. He had endured worse than a humiliating dinner. He had worked double shifts while attending night classes. He had learned how to fix elevators and negotiate contracts. He had built something quietly, brick by brick, when no one was watching. Vanessa began speaking about standards and vision. Mark listened patiently. Then she asked, almost playfully, whether he had ever owned anything significant. Owned anything? He thought about the first duplex he had bought 3 years ago after saving every spare dollar and securing a risky loan. He had renovated it himself on weekends, sanding floors until his hands blistered. He rented it out at affordable rates to single mothers and veterans who struggled to find housing in safe neighborhoods. He thought about the 3 other properties he had acquired since then under an LLC no one associated with his name publicly. He had never bragged. He didn't need applause. Mark calmly placed his napkin on the table. He explained, gently, that property management was indeed part of his life. He managed properties, the ones he owned. He described how he had started investing, how he focused on revitalizing neglected buildings in underserved areas of Chicago. He spoke about financial literacy workshops he sponsored on Sundays for tenants who wanted to break cycles of debt. His voice never rose. It didn't need to. Vanessa's expression changed in slow motion. The amusement drained first. Then came confusion. Then something that looked dangerously close to regret. The joke had shifted direction. He told her he believed wealth wasn't measured by appearances but by impact. That he drove an old sedan because it ran fine. That he wore borrowed jackets sometimes because he preferred investing in people over designer labels. He didn't accuse her. He didn't shame her. He simply told the truth. And in that truth, something powerful happened. The restaurant no longer felt like a stage for his humiliation. It felt like a quiet testimony to resilience. Vanessa's posture softened. She admitted, almost in a whisper, that she hadn't expected that. She confessed her friends thought it would be funny to set her up with someone they assumed wouldn't meet her standards. She said she felt foolish. Mark could see the cracks forming in her confidence, not the glamorous kind, but the human kind. He realized she wasn't cruel at her core. She was insecure. Raised in a world where success was displayed loudly and vulnerability was hidden. He remembered nights when he doubted himself too. Nights when he wondered if sacrificing his dreams had been a mistake. Nights when Hannah cried because she felt like a burden. Those were the moments that shaped him, not the balance sheets. The waiter brought the main course. Neither of them touched it for a while. Vanessa asked why he hadn't led with his accomplishments. Mark smiled faintly. He said he wanted to be valued for who he was before what he had. He had spent too many years invisible to start performing now. Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It was thoughtful. Outside, the city lights shimmered against Lake Michigan. Inside, two people confronted versions of themselves they didn't fully understand before this night. Vanessa apologized, not dramatically, not theatrically, but sincerely. She admitted she had become so focused on status that she forgot how to see people. Mark listened without resentment. Forgiveness came easier to him than pride. The joke blind date that began as entertainment had become something else entirely, a mirror. By the time dessert arrived, the energy at the table had transformed. There was no grand romance blooming, no cinematic kiss under chandeliers. Instead, there was something quieter and perhaps more meaningful: respect. Mark didn't need her validation anymore. He already knew his worth. But seeing her recognize it mattered in a different way. It restored something fragile, the belief that humility still had power in a world obsessed with image. When they stood to leave, Vanessa hesitated before walking away. She thanked him for teaching her something without intending to. Mark stepped out into the cool Chicago night feeling lighter than when he had entered. He realized the real identity that came out wasn't just his wealth. It was his character. And maybe that was the greater revelation. Before the story ends, take a moment and tell me in the comments, if you had been in Mark's place, would you have revealed the truth, or walked away? Because sometimes the greatest victories aren't about proving others wrong. They're about standing firm in who you are when the world tries to make you feel small. If this story touched your heart, reminded you of your own quiet battles, or inspired you to see people differently, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, but only if it truly meant something to you.